All right, so we are ready to apply for certification. Wonderful thing. Congratulations. First thing we're going to be doing is obviously looking through the rules and make sure you've read the rules, know what we're supposed to do, what the expectations are. And then as we're getting to the point of applying, we're going to be using this worksheet. This is for basic, intermediate, and advanced certifications only. There's a separate workbook for the master's level, and there's a separate workbook for recertification. So if you're doing master's or recert, you need to use the other workbook. This is for basic through advanced only. So on the first page, in the first tab, it's kind of quick overview. You've got multiple worksheets, and those are tabbed out down here at the bottom. Some of them are color coded, like the green ones are for the core independent study courses. And then you've got all other core courses, non-core, higher ed, instructional credit, conference credit, disaster credit, and for advanced level only, those who are going for their advanced, you have an entire section of tabs for you and your professional service areas, service contributions, which we'll get to in a little bit. So let's scroll back to the applicant instructions. So first thing you're going to see here is that we've got instructions on how to fill this workbook out. All of these instructions correspond to the rules. So if there's ever any question, you can always refer back to the rules, but these kind of give you a 30,000 foot view of what's expected of you on each tab. You'll also see that we've got information on applying, actually uploading this information. We use Smartsheets. There's a form that you'll fill out. It's in the rules and on the website. If you need to submit via snail mail, you can still do that. Just be very mindful that it does take a lot longer for us to review them. And we do not want you to staple any of the materials or put the materials in sheet protectors or 3-ring binder because, quite frankly, that takes up a lot of time for us to deal with, and we don't have that kind of time. Everybody who reviews these are professional emergency managers with full-time jobs. They do this because they love the program, they love what we're doing. So we need to respect their time. So if we get a packet that is that contains any of that stuff, we send it back. Not trying to be mean or anything, just like I said, we're just trying to respect each other's time. So we just ask that everything you do, you do it right. And that kind of goes for this stuff too. So if you're applying and you're putting this information in, make sure you've read the rules. The last thing we want to do is deny an application and make you work a little bit more to get it right. We'd love for you to have it done the first time correctly. So we're going to go through this workbook together. So the next tab after the instructions is the actual application form. You do need to fill this all out. And then for my advanced level applicants only, you can select which one of these service areas that you want to apply for, whether it's conference credit, community leadership. You need 3 out of the 13. I would recommend, however, sending in maybe 4. That way, if there's an issue with one of them, you still have a little bit of safety that the other 3 may work out just fine. Otherwise, we'd have to deny the application and send it back for you to fix. So we're going to just go ahead and click on a couple of these. We'll do community leadership, professional assignment, and conference credit. And we're going to reference those a little bit later. So once you've filled out all this information, the next tab over is summary of hours. And this is your way to visualize whether or not you have sufficient hours to submit your workbook. And what we have is your basic, intermediate, and advanced columns. And then each one has core hours, non-core hours. And then down here, these sections right here are your disaster credit hours, core and non-core. The workbook tabs, all this stuff gets tabulated automatically up here, with the sole exception of the disaster credit hours. The formulation of to make that work was pretty complicated. So the easiest thing to do is to say, hey, if you're going to apply for 80 hours of core disaster credit, come in here and type it in. And when we do that and hit the enter button, you'll see that 80 hours applies to not only the basic level, but also intermediate and advanced. And that's important because everything that we do is cumulative. Intermediate builds off basic, and advanced builds off intermediate and basic. So everything's cumulative here. And so we can add another 80 down here to the non-core, and you'll see that it's going to apply just the same. Now, let's just say, for example, even though you can't do this, let's say that we had 100 hours of non-core credit. You're going to see that the non-core hours here, the cell, turned dark green. And that is to indicate that, hey, you've hit the 100 hours required of non-core training for the basic. But you'll also see that the intermediate and advanced levels have kind of a lighter shaded green. And that is because we do have, on occasion, people who go straight to either intermediate or straight to advanced, and when they apply. So this is just to say, for those folks applying, you still got to hit that the 200 and the 300 hours here. And the same is going to apply up here to your core hours. You'll see that if I were to, put in 200 here, we'd have dark green for core and dark green for non-core. And that would indicate that you are, in fact, ready to submit. You have the sufficient hours required. But you'll notice that these stayed white. They're not shaded in. And that is because the intermediate and advanced have additional hours required. So if we were to come in here and, let's say we put in 150 hours, which, again, you can't do because there's some limitations there. But just to show you what that might look like, now we've got 350 hours. Which would mean that we've got enough hours. Had we not had anything here in basic, you would have hit the basic level. So that's kind of showing you that you would have those hours in the bank, but we still don't have enough for the entire intermediate. So let's do 250, and now we have a dark green for intermediate. Still light green for ALEM. Again, light green showing that you've got sufficient hours in the lower levels, but not enough to hit the certification that you're going for if you were going for advanced. So that's how that works, and you're going to reference that throughout your process here. So let's move on to these green tabs: basic core, intermediate core, and advanced core independent study courses. So if we go to the basic, and this is the same for each one of the other two, the top section shows the required core IS courses for this particular level. This one, the basic, has the most. It's 20 required core courses. That includes this Q890. This is the kind of the one-off there that is through the U.S. Fire Administration. The others are through EMI's independent study class of work. So the top section is required core, and the bottom section here is for anything else, any of the other IS courses you want to apply. I would caution you that if you're applying for basic and you say that you want, you've got IS 10, animals in disasters, I would not recommend applying that here, because if you go for your intermediate level later, you have already utilized those hours in the basic certification, and therefore they cannot be used here. You would have to make those hours up. It just, quite frankly, complicates things too much, and it's not too much to ask that we take other. There's hundreds of these IS courses, so you can find some other ones to take and apply the required core ones where it's appropriate. So let's show up here. So if you remember, the IS courses give you CEUs, typically, 0.5, 0.8, or 1.0, depending on how long the class is. The rules allow you to multiply that number by 10 to get your course hours, your contact hours rather. So let's say we had a 1.0 hour course. We multiply that by 10, that becomes a 10-hour class for this certification. If it was a 0.8 hour course, that would be 8 hours. And you'll see as I load those numbers in, this cell is going to populate and summarize those hours. As we scroll to the bottom here, you'll see that the total basic IS courses now is showing 18. Let's say we add in another IS course down here, and that is a 12-hour course. Let's say it's 1.2 CEUs, so it's 12 hours. We scroll down here. Page 1 here is going to show 12. Don't necessarily worry about that if you're applying online. This is really more for those who have to print this out and mail it in. It separates it nicely. So now you're going to see that the total number of hours for your basic independent study classes is 30. And if we go here to the summary of hours, that's going to be referenced. We've got 30 all the way across the board. If we go to intermediate hours, and let's say we do a 10-hour class, everything is basically the same. All the way at the bottom, we'd have 10 hours. Summary of hours would now show 40 for intermediate and still 30 for basic. Same thing up here. 10 hours, let's say for that course. I don't know if it is or not. But we go to the summary of hours, and now we've got 50 for advanced, 40 for intermediate, and 30 for basic. Now, we have additional core hours that we want to apply, which is fantastic. Each of the other tabs are going to have kind of this yellow highlighted example for you. So the rules, each tab is also going to have the rules to reference, the page number 7 for this particular tab. And you're going to put the date completed, course name, who it was sponsored through, the number of hours, and what level you're applying it to. So we'll just say we're taking a 40-hour course. We're going to apply it to basic. We scroll down to the bottom, and you're going to see we've got some tabulations down here for you. Again, we're just trying to help you visualize how many total hours you have as you go through the process. So this worksheet, which is this line right here, is showing 40 hours. That's what we just put in. But the one below it is showing total basic core hours is 70 because we had 30 hours previously put in the basic core IS tab here. That's going to also replicate here, 70 hours. So let's go back over, and let's say we apply another, let's change this from 40 to an 80-hour class. Actually, let's do that. Let's add a little bit. Let's go ahead and make sure we get the hours that we need. It's a 170-hour class. So we scroll down to the bottom, and we're going to see that for this worksheet, we have 170, but look how this one has turned green for us because it is tabulating those basic independent study class hours up here, and we have now hit the 200-hour mark, which is the minimum hours of core training required for the basic. And as we reference back over here, we now have 200 hours, and that one is now turned dark green. We'll move our way down to non-core courses, and it's the same workbook. We're just tabulating it differently now. So this one was Firefighter 1 through the Fire College. It was a 40-hour course that you took, and it was applied to basic. That's fantastic. Well, let's do, a 50-hour course. Again, apply it to basic. We scroll down to the bottom, and we've got our 50 hours. And it will also show up in the summary here, 50 hours. Let's say we hit that mark of 100 that we needed. Again, the cell turns green to indicate you've hit the marker, as does the summary of hours. So if this were the case, then we would submit this on up for review. Next, we're going to look at the higher education hours. So in the 2026 rules, which again, page 9, the hours have changed a little bit. So for quarter hour credit, you get 5 hours of for each quarter hour taken. So if you took a 3/4 hour class, that would be 15 contact hours. If you were to take, if you're taking semester hours or term hours, that is 10 contact hours for each semester hour taken. So if you took a standard 3 semester hour class, that's 30 contact hours. So in the form here, you're basically, there's the example, sportscasting 101, 30-hour course that's non-core because it's not directly related to the EM profession. But if you took effective emergency management 101, that would count as core. Refer to the rules as to the definition between core and non-core. So if we do a 40-hour class and we want to do this as core hours, this time we're going to apply it to intermediate. If you come down to the bottom, you'll see that core intermediate hours is now 40. Now, something to note here is that for basic and intermediate, you both have core and non-core options, but for the advanced, you only have core hours allowed. That is part of the new rules that to get your advanced level EM certificate, the rules dictate that the non-core hours in higher education do not count. Basically, we can't apply a non-core class, basket weaving 101, to your advanced level certification. That needs to be something else. While those will still help you for your non-core hours for the basic and intermediate, you cannot apply non-core hours to the advanced any longer. Moving on to instructional credit. So it gets a little bit more complicated. The rules say that you can now apply 25 hours of instruction time per certificate application. Meaning, if you're going for your basic, and let's say you taught a class, it was a 25-hour class, great, you can apply those hours here because we want to celebrate those who are teaching others. You've been taught something, you've had experience somewhere. That's wonderful. We want you to bring that and provide it to others, and we want to give you credit for that. So that's what this is all about. But only 25 hours of credit can be utilized per certificate. So in the examples here, you've got somebody who taught a 300 class. That does count as core. They applied it to intermediate, but they only taught 12 of those hours. So that means they've got 13 hours of additional instructional time available for them to apply. And it looks like they did that. They also taught, let's say, a Fire Officer 5 class. That's non-core because it's not directly related to emergency management. So they applied it there, and that's great. But then they decided they're going to teach a basic class, EMT basic, which is great. It's non-core. They're applying it to their advanced, and they taught 140 of those hours. But again, the rules say only 25 count. So on that particular cell, we've got it arranged so that it will highlight red to say, hey, you applied too many hours to one particular line. So we'll go ahead and show you how this works down low. Do some time there. And we'll do non-core basic 10 hours. Neither one of those is over the 25. If I have done 26, it would show red. We'll do 25 there. But when we scroll down to the bottom, you'll see that it's applying 25 and 10 because that's what you put. And then you'll notice that the two of these added together equate to more than 25, and so they turned red. And that's a visual indicator to you that, hey, something's wrong. Let's say instead we did 25 core and 10 additional hours of core. Well, it didn't turn red because neither one of those is over 25. But But then we've also done something down here. This is to, again, help out, make life a little bit easier. You technically put that you did 35 hours of instructional time, but this system is only going to allow you to apply 25. Okay, so that's why you see 35 applied, but only 25 are given credit. Conference credit hours, pretty simple. Apply to whichever level and how many hours you're going for. It'll highlight down here, and all that gets applied to your summary of hours. And then the last one here is the disaster credit hours. So you are going to identify which level you're applying this to, the type of disaster or name of the disaster, the date, what was your assignment, the county that you were assigned to, or the jurisdiction you were assigned to, whether it was your home jurisdiction or not. What type of disaster declaration was it? Was it a declared emergency, major, or SBA, incident of national significance, state declared disaster, or something else? And you'll need to specify that in the notes. And then you need to put in the number of hours that you worked. There's a maximum of 80 that can be applied for each application. And then lastly, don't forget, how is this going to be applied? Is it going to core, or are we putting it to non-core? That's totally your option to do. So that's all the tabs that all three levels, basic, intermediate, and advanced, are going to do. Again, the difference is when you get to your advanced, you're going to have to do a little bit more work. Again, all the following blue tabs are your service credit. So if you were doing a conference credit, this would have to be different from other conferences you've taken. Then you put the name of the conference, the date you did it, and how many hours were applied. These tabs are pretty simple. It's just kind of an indicator of what you're doing. The bulk of the work here is after you fill this stuff out. You have to put all this together. All that supporting documentation has to go together, and then you have to combine those files into one PDF and upload that into the Smartsheet online submission system. We have another video of how to combine files. Once you do that, again, you're going to scroll to the back, back up to the front, summary of hours, and just make sure that whatever level you're applying for, you have the dark green. That's normally a pretty good indicator that you have sufficient hours. I always recommend to put in a few extra classes just in case we applied something to core that should have been non-core, or you applied a class and you forgot to upload a certificate. Those get tossed out. Last thing we want to do is for somebody to have exactly 200 hours of core, and we have to deny the application because they applied a bunch of classes, higher education classes, let's say, to core, and they really didn't. They didn't belong there. They were non-core hours. And if that's the instant, then there's no safety net for you, so the application gets denied, and then we give you 30 days to fix it. So that is the workbook for the basic, intermediate, and advanced level certifications. If there's any questions, please first read through the rules, read through the instructions, and if something is still unclear, then by all means email the certification committee. The email is online. It's also in the workbook here, so there's plenty of ways to get a hold of us, and we will try to do everything we can to get that done for you. Remember, the review period typically takes about 2 months for us to do, because those of us reviewing are full-time emergency managers with other jobs. So we do this when we can, when we get some free time. Oftentimes it's after hours and on weekends. So just bear with us. We'll get it done, and hopefully you will have a new certification to put behind your name. So best of luck. And hopefully we'll be celebrating your success at the upcoming conference.